Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. We got so much to talk about. The football game is not until tomorrow night. We'll still get into some Steeler topics. We'll also talk about G-Man Choi and Carlos Santana coming to Pittsburgh. No concerts, just Carlos Santana coming to PNC Park. And then we'll get into Penn State, what you thought of their football seasons now that we're heading into championship games. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will still be the Steelers as they embark to Indianapolis. Here to do all the chatting with you is our panel tonight with Andrew Fillipponi from the PM team, 93.7 The Fan, far left in the middle. Mark Kaboly from The Athletic, and to his left, that would be Will Graves, outstanding journalist with the Associated Press. You're all outstanding. I appreciate you coming here on a Sunday night. I want to start, Andrew, with the Steelers. Okay. And this question to you. Deontay Johnson or the Steeler pass defense, which has given up 22 touchdown passes, which is an alarming number. Which is more concerning to you?
I would say the defense, because of what they have invested in it. You know, everything starts with, oh, T.J. Watt missed all these games. Yeah, but look at the brain trust and look at the players they have up front, even subtracting Watt. You still have Hayward. You still have Highsmith, who's one of the league leaders in sacks. You brought Flores in here. No, when they built this team, the idea was elite defense, offense, don't screw it up, try to become a winning team that way. So given their formula, I would say the pass defense is a bigger problem for me, Mark.
What are we talking about, this year or years future? Because I think this year, I think they can go, you know, next year they can definitely go and replace these guys, these Cam Sutton, Killer Witherspoon, Levi Wallace. So that might be a short-term problem right there. I mean, when they put this together, this defense, it was under the belief that that secondary wasn't going to be very good, and that was going to be the question mark of it. I worry about Deontay Johnson, where his mind is right now. He's still attached to this team for 2 more years, right? 2.5 more years.
And a nice rate
and they're
of pay.
going to need to get him involved at some point. He's open, man, and they need to get him the ball
and they paid
him
him money to be like maybe receiver 1B money, right? They didn't give him like 1A money, but like the bottom half of the #1 of the top tier guys, right? And you know, they don't have an answer for why he's not getting the ball. I mean, you ask Mike, and he's going to say, well, that's because he was the known quantity. But if you look at the numbers, it was that way week 1. If you look at Deontay's targets when Mitch was the quarterback, it was I think it was 10 or above in all 3 games, or it's like 10, 13, and 10, right? And you see with Kenny, it's dropped off a cliff. Kenny can say it's the coverage, and I get it because Kenny's throwing so many picks. Sorry, Pony, I didn't mean to bring that up. He's brought up so many picks that like he's afraid to throw into coverage, but he is open, and it's alarming. And it's crazy. There are 216 guys entering this week that caught touchdown passes, including Zach Wilson, and Deontay Johnson's not one of them.
Well, maybe Deontay should have thought about that before halftime of the Jets game.
Yeah, but but don't guys like Devontae Adams and all the best receivers in the game, they're covered too. I mean, at some point you have to give the ball to your guy, don't you?
He's not their guy.
Yeah, but
I don't care how much they're paying him. He's not their best player. If I'm building an offensive game plan,
so just ignore him?
No, I didn't say that. But if I'm trying to figure out, it's about players and not plays. Get the ball to my best players. In my opinion, he's not their best wide receiver. Pickens is. If I was a defensive coordinator, I would be more afraid of George Pickens than Deontay Johnson.
I don't know about that. I mean, Deontay is very good at what he does.
Which is what? He never makes big plays. Even last year, he was not a big playmaker.
He had a couple big plays the other week against, Saints? And Pickett missed him a couple times or didn't see him. I mean, if you
do they scheme for him, though? You never see him going across the middle anymore, and those are where he gets hit.
If I see him lined up one-on-one, you just throw the ball to him deep. I mean, he's unbelievable getting off the line. He can catch the ball down the field, and I don't see that happening. I hate to bring up number 7, but he would see that all the time, and he would just heave it up and say, go make a play. I think Kenny needs to let these guys, including Deontay Johnson, make plays, and I don't think he's been doing that.
Part of it is where when he does get the ball, he's not in a position to get downfield. I mean, you saw what? He didn't have a touch to the first, quarter and a half, and then they did, the jet sweep on 3rd and 1. He got a couple yards, and they tried to run him literally like it wasn't even an out. The ball was snapped, they threw to him, and I think he got a 2-yard gain. And to me, it's like, where's Matt Canada putting him in a position to make him successful too, right? But I still think Kenny has tunnel vision. I still think Kenny trusts Pickens and he trusts Freiermuth more. I just think that's the case.
All right, let me talk about Kenny Pickens because Jerry Dulac of the Post-Gazette brought up an interesting thing in his chat, which is to say guys like Zach Wilson benched, Mac Jones, even though that was an injury, benched, and he made it seem like maybe the Steelers should consider the same. Mark, to me, the accusation is, well, you are prioritizing development over winning, which to me, if I'm choosing, I want development right now. They've made the commitment to me. They should stick with him no matter what.
Yeah, the question is Zach Wilson in the game right now if he doesn't make that comment yesterday or last week, right?
Mike White looked pretty good.
I know, but do you make that move if you're Robert Saleh? Probably not. So Kenny's pretty good with.
You don't
his
think
work.
his production had anything to do with it?
I think over the top was that comment, and
I agree
what
with
it
Mark.
possibly did in the locker room. I mean, he went and apologized to every single player, individually and to the team. So that meant a lot. They need to get him back mentally straight. I think one thing about Kenny is he is mentally put together here. It's just a matter of getting the snaps, doing it. I mean, you don't see many rookie quarterbacks come in and dominate right away. You can count on one hand. I'm staying with Kenny the whole rest of the season and let him develop now so you can come in next year and be that guy of, hey, let's take off from week one.
Look, I hope Steeler fans, with their families sat around and watched a lot of football today. Some weird outcomes. I mean, we were talking about the Jacksonville game earlier, but you can't look at the Steelers as they're currently constructed and think they are in the upper half to third of the AFC. So if they're not, what's the point of trying to be 9-8 and get into the playoffs? Like, I just don't. If you think Kenny's the guy, you got to ride with him, and you got to ride the wave. And again, I think the last time I was on here, Kaboly was giving me hell about it because I was yelling, "Can't we just let Kenny play instead of kinging him or saying he sucks? Why can't we just let him play?" And I think that's like, I'm an agnostic. I need more before I believe one way or the other. And I think what's the point of going 9-8?
Right.
I just don't see it.
I don't want. I mean, you don't pay me to bite my tongue on this, but I thought it was one of the most ridiculous assertions I've ever heard. The idea that you guys are in the locker room, it's a divided locker room that veterans feel like Tomlin is putting winning second.
No,
what were they doing with Trubisky in at quarterback?
Nothing.
Exactly.
That was the problem.
They were one of the worst offenses in the league with Trubisky. It's not like you've got guys sitting around like Cam Hayward and Minka Fitzpatrick that feel like this coach is wasting a season in my prime to play a rookie quarterback, which pretty much was Jerry's argument. So I don't know where he's coming from with that. He's good friends with Mason Rudolph. He probably feels like Rudolph did not get a fair shake here. He's 5-4 in his career. He had a shot against the Lions last year, a winless team, the second worst team in the NFL, and he tied them. So the idea that he deserved a chance and they're like, punting on the season.
Did he really mean Mason Rudolph? Do you get
Well,
that
then
feeling?
who did he mean? Trubisky?
Well, I guess. I mean, I didn't go that far as to think it would
I
be
know a
Mason
lot of the
Rudolph.
guys in that locker room still really respect Mitch, so he might have met Mitch.
But to the point where, like, they feel like their coach is doing them wrong by playing Pickett, I don't see that.
No, I don't see that either.
I mean, Jerry must have stopped his jihad against Matt Canada long enough to start his jihad against this thing.
I mean, Jerry probably thought Chase Daniel should have replaced Justin Herbert today. A coach have the guts to bench a first-round pick. He struggled for a quarter, Bob.
We got to go to a break here on that note. When we come back, we're going to talk about Hines Ward, James Harrison. Should they be in the Hall of Fame? And also, guess what's going to happen in Cleveland next weekend? There's a new quarterback. Should the current one be benched? That's next.
Number 1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by Number 1 Cochran. Go one better.